I had my mic turned off all this time. All right, I'm gonna start over. I didn't realize I was muted all this time. Apologize, folks. I didn't realize I was muted. So practice makes perfect, right? So my name is Mr. Frederick. I'm an investor from my company Frederick Capital, and basically to invest that Frederick Capital, you could actually join me. Um, early phase is still under construction to build a platform that could educate you and I and us, middle class America, and those who's never invested before understand the power of investing in both cryptocurrency, which is I'm very heavily involved in, but also in pre-IPO. You can almost look at cryptocurrency as pre-IPO too, because there's just so many new things and projects going on and whatnot. So Boxable, and again, I'm repeating myself because I was muted. The most important reason why I'm here today and telling you about Boxable's closing rounds is because Boxable did something incredible that has never been done and actually broke records too. Is that they were able to be in multiple platforms, and many of them from Start Engine, but Boxable started out on a different platform previously and grew bigger than the other platform I could handle, and they came on. One of the reasons and raising $68 million and change, they were actually also able, which I've never seen any company do this as an investor, able to be in multiple platforms. And that's incredible. And what it means is that they were able to raise capital faster. And that's why they actually closing rounds. So not only are they on Start Engine, they are also on Republic. And that's another platform for investors, does a lot of cool event stuff. The other thing they do is that they actually are um, they, on their own website. That is, I'm going to Start Engine's website right now as I type this. And what they have done is take themselves, and it's incredible that they are able to do that. Whatever, I'm assuming that's all legit violations and breaking any SEC laws to do so, and it allowed them to also not be restricted to whatever limitation or cap. And being an A plus round funding regulation, it's more open and more flexible to take more investments in at the same time. So it's a beneficial to that. For a second. Close my window for me. So this is a live show. So that's part of the reason why they've been able to, take flux of investments. And also, one of the things I had done a previous recording when I was looking at this round of investing at $3 billion, which is incredible because I've been an early investor when it was 46 million starting out to see what it's going within 3 or 4 years time frame. It's powerful. The bigger thing as well. Thank you for those whoever joined in. Could you can name and chat if you want, or ask any questions anytime. That's cool. One of the other things that was important that they did is that they were basically, from the call that they did with the Sun, did a very thorough, open, candid conversation about the vision of Boxable, where they're going, and also the goal. Now they want to build 4 times the size of the current um, Boxable manufacturing plant in Vegas. They want to launch, and sometimes I've heard the goals of expanding in East Coast, Midwest, and they currently I believe in Vegas. So therefore, having that also internationally. So and that's to partnerships and franchise. So them being able to openly take in 3 different areas of investments, it was able to make them grow fast, get the exposure, raise the capital, and also close. There's a reason also for why they close early. And my previous recording that I've done of people, because especially those who's never invested, this is not the same type of investment that you may have done in the past. This is real solid investments in the sense that these are pre-IPO long-term investments, and therefore things change fast, and investments come and go, and you may miss the round, but then sometimes and hopefully sometimes you get the opportunity to join in again at a later time whenever the company opens the round. Boxable has had 4 rounds since I've got to be involved in the company, and I participated in all of those 4 rounds, give or take, different amounts of investing. So Boxable right now, and like I said, if you are joining me and I miss my recording, one of the things is that Boxable is basically, um, someone's calling me live. Um, Join me online if you see me. Boxable, what they've gone through the various rounds, the share price has increased. And also, it's created the awareness for people who are looking to invest properly. And therefore, by doing that, the exposure is greater. And therefore, you don't want to also, as a company, oversaturate your company by having more. Like, for example, 68 million was the goal. They raised, as the CEO said, over 100 million on their own. So you calculate about looking at 16 point, almost 16.2 million as I'm watching this live site. Actually, there it is, 16.2 million. They are able to um, raise money in various ways, but also faster. Excuse me for a second. So, if someone wants to ask a question, could actually ask me live. So I'm in here. I'm going to be doing a lot of information. Those who want to join me afterwards, could, watch the replay and so on. But they are able to raise capital faster, and also they control, like I said, from independently raising, but also whatever the criteria in the other platforms they're raising. So if they have enough of the money, let's say it was 100 million to raise 68 million, as it's recorded on Start Engine, they don't have to keep raising capital. This is where you dilute your shareholders and also dilute the value of the company, because it tells you there's a lot of demand for other people that wants in, and therefore you need to calculate that and plan it and think about that as well too. So that's why they could close out early. And it's not a surprise, because my original thought when I saw the momentum of how fast Boxable was growing, how fast investing. Actually, one of the things I love about Sun Engine and any investment platform with sale homes, you could actually see the history of the last close, and it also gives you an engagement of the growth of that company, and meaning that this round alone, and I know because I'm addicted to Boxable's information. They at 7,146 investors. Now, what's interesting about that number is that it doesn't mean that each person has invested just $1,000. Obviously, with 16.2 million, obviously. But also, what it means is that people like me have reinvested several times over. I checked off the phone one of my business friends. You know, he also told me that, hey, I'm going to put a couple more thousand in as well. And I'm also clearing one of my last investments. Who knows? I shouldn't say last because I'm always investing in Boxable, because I see the bigger vision of what Boxable is going to do. So let's get deep into why they are closing. Um, so they are closing also, and again, this is my opinion, not necessarily as a spokesman for the company, because I'm not here as a representative of the company Boxable itself. Just an investor and trying to educate people to join Boxable. And again, I said this before we're muted, but if you don't know anything about Boxable, you're hearing about Boxable for the first time, click on my link, invest.frederickcapital.com. Actually, I'm going to give you the link, put in the browser. And basically from there, you could actually see a whole review I did several years ago that talked about Boxable. I saw the bigger picture, like many of us sometimes don't understand, and I have a technology background. And that's one of the things about Boxable. It's not a tiny house play. It's not a little, oh, gimmick. It's a solid platform that actually serves many avenues of resources and actually on demand for housing in the future. And also, when you look at what's happening, disaster relief issues, flood zones, fires, destruction, earthquakes, all these disasters, you are able to actually build faster, and we built faster in the case. And again, one of the things I did is, someone in TikTok made a comment about trying to how fast he could get his money and his investment. And I said to myself, you know what, this guy don't fully understand the bigger picture, and I'll say this about the bigger picture. Boxable, like I said, is a technology company. It's not a tiny house or whatever housing company or not a real estate company. They are a technology company just like Airbnb, technology company, and not about social media or whatever people may have thought social media was. And the reason it's important because when it comes to technology, and I always compare it to Airbnb, that's a 5 to 10 year play, meaning that you're going to have your money locked in for at least 5 to 10 years before the company may go public. Case in point, Airbnb, I read about the story, read the book 20, I think 2007, but 2008, they started, figuring things out. By 2012, they really got funding, I believe, and again, could be wrong, the numbers off a little bit. They were able to do some things and get recognition and started getting investors. And so when you look at that and how long it took us, I believe it was 2021 is when they went public. That's a long time. And so if you are someone who's just trying to, make fast cash, this is not for you. And also there's regulations. And one of the things that for me, always passionate is trying to educate people. Investing pre-IPO is not a matter of, oh, going to put my money, set it and forget it. You're going to lose your money because, no, I shouldn't say lose your money. There's a chance you could lose if you got the wrong investments, of course. If you get coaching trained by me, definitely make some right choices, but also get the education behind it, which is one of the things I'm doing here today. And what Boxable is going to do and be able to do and go into the future, I believe it's a solid company. So that's the one thing. But as far as losing your money in bad investment, in this case, you are not going to lose your money. You're basically going to get bounced back because there's so much regulation and you need to pay attention to these things. So right now, if you are just joining or you're listening carefully, this is a very important thing I'm trying to tell you. Because you paid your money, it somewhat went through. There's a process of phases. So right now, your investment may say, okay, transactions in process, funds being held and waiting for the close. So this is the close. And if there's anything that happens in between now and the close, they're going to ask you to confirm. And many of you don't understand that. And one person, a friend of mine in particular, and this is why it's so important to listen to what I'm saying right now, is because if you don't reconfirm, you will lose your position. You will lose your chance to fully be invested. You can't sue the companies unless it's standard regulation. And why is that also very important? Because the position part, when I say lose, because when every round closes, it doesn't mean that it's going to be at the same price point. It means that the company does an assessment, get an auditing done properly, and it reevaluates the value, new valuation and price appreciation of that company. I remember reading one of the comments in the investment page. Someone asked the question, how do you determine Boxer went from 46 million to whatever was in between to over $3 billion? I think the guy or woman, whatever it was, couldn't believe and think it was far-fetched. And I love it because far-fetched all you want, and I'll be laughing all the way to the bank like I'm smiling right now because I'm not someone who smiles often, and I don't play around when it comes to investing. And that's important to understand that because you are seeing whatever the time frame you're looking at right now. Boxable right now, as I'm looking at 80 cents. I saw Boxable and invested at 14 cents, and I've tripled my money even in a pre-IPO phase from 14 cents to and that was like 6x, 7x, and I've even had 10x my money because of what the company rewarded me for being an early investor. So let's talk about some of the other things why this round closing is so important. And this is not a key point for you, and I don't want to be late at the time. And it's also why it's important is because by them closing, it's also going to change the valuation, which I always love every time it closes. So I get excited when the round is closed. But also, what happens is that the frenzy is about to stop. What do you mean? So because a lot of us, and when it's A plus, you know the trick of investing. Sometimes when you have A plus, well, not all the time tends to be, And this is what you also miss if you don't position it. And I know how fast Boxable is because I actually, my friend and I, we first started, this happened in the first week of investing. And there was so much demand that the company's platform couldn't keep up with the processing of credit cards and charges and stuff like that. So hence why they are on Sun Engine also. It has a bigger pool to handle that, the flow of interest. So because Boxable was closing down, a lot of people are flooded. And like I said, it's 16,200,154 bucks. It will blow up. I am going to predict again if I hit between 20 million by the 2 months that it's going to go. So if you don't understand investing, they didn't say, and I didn't say that Boxer was closing now, like someone asked me today. Boxer was announcing that they're going to be closing 2 months from now. And that's going to set the precedence for people to put their money in fast. And those who are sitting on the fence, and that's what happens when you're A plus, because you could invest in other things, and wait for it. Because A plus tend to run a long time. And I've seen even almost a year to 6 months. People have, or platforms have had campaigns running that long. So now, Boxable you could say, had put the fire on people's butts who's been on the fence, or like me, I've done other investments while waiting, for this announcement per se. But one thing that's very important for folks to understand, besides the many things I just shared with you, if you are someone going to be a lagger or still on the fence, you'll pay the price for waiting too long. Because yeah, it's 68.5, but what you don't understand is that they also are on other platforms. They've already made, and I don't look at Republic that much to know what is their offering around, how much investors have invested. Um, and also independently, Boxable has reached, which was announced by the CEO, $100 million, and it was a couple weeks ago, so it's probably close to over $100 million. And I'm betting, I guess between 150 million to 200 million they've already altogether raised. And so what it says is that, and also keep in mind, big investors, accredited investors, they are investing not at $1,000, which is the minimum requirement on Start Engine. I'm talking about tens to millions of dollars at a time. Big difference. And so when that happens, this is why they could close early. And I know personally because there was an investment when I first started a couple of years ago. I was on the fence, wasn't sure. There was a media company. I seen it, similar things like that, but they had something unique. And so I was still trying to research the company. And within a week, boom, they closed because they're raising enough the capital they needed. And the gentleman did not need to liquidate his company further by having too many investors come in more than and he hasn't opened since. And so that's the risk you take when you don't invest right away, especially when you know it's a true investment that you believe in. This is a solid company. Again, I'm not here to convince you. I don't play the convincing game. And also can't financially give you advice, but just educating properly. And so one of the solutions, though, for being a late comer, as we get closer to 2 months, and that 2 months should be around October, first week of October, or second week of October, they'll close. You'll see, and even a bigger bet, I could see this easily hitting 32,000. The frenzy of people, and also the reason for the new frenzy, and I was watching the first month of Boxable and how much about, and I said in the recordings, about 1,000,000 a week to a week and a half they're raising. That's how fast they were growing, and I've never seen any company raise capital that fast. And actually, to the point that Sun Engine on its own platform that raised capital often, they have surpassed first of all, the investors right now, 7,000. I love to do this when I'm talking and refreshing to see if it changes. 7,146 investors, it's still the same number. And the previous round, by the way, about 5 million short is what they closed at, third round. And they've done 4 times that. Powerful. So when you look at $3 billion valuation, my prediction is that he might be 6 to 10 billion easily. And now it's recognizable. to the point that D.R. Horton, actually one of the first big deal listed investor companies, actually partner up with Boxable because of that. So they get attention. So imagine what's going to happen the next round. The next round, I thought it was going to happen this round, but it didn't, going over $1. But the next round is going to be sick because more and more people will see and understand the bigger vision. And also, I really sadly to say though, the disasters and what's coming about with so many people losing their jobs, going to a deeper recession. And I'm going to be straight for you, with you about the vision that I see. And also, I'm going to publish a deeper dive into Boxable, article documentation that I wrote to help you set the vision for Boxable and where it's going in the future. Um, this is going to be bigger than the Great Depression. And the cost of housing, the lack of financial means, because we are in a transition period to 2025, 2030, where we are going to transition tremendously. So someone said, oh, this has nothing to do with Boxable. Yes, it does, because more people will lose their jobs, more people will lose their housing, and they need affordable place to stay. One of the important things that you need to understand is also looking at the baby boomer population. 7.5, I think, 0.4 baby boomers that's still alive today. Having that said, and also some of them have old homes too, which is fine. People sell, rehab houses, so it's here or there. But the millennial generation has surpassed the population of baby boomers. So hence, when you look at housing, and if you depending on where you live, you see the development and growth of housing. There's a need for Boxable, and it's not a simple thing. And the article that I wrote, I was sharing this with a friend earlier. It's that Boxable, what they're doing is that they are actually solving a major problem as far as the time it takes to actually build a house. It takes about 3 months or so if you're going to do it right and up. And that's construction, labor. Now you have supply chain issues. So you got some major delays. When you can build a house, calling that house, because that's the vision I'm looking at within an hour. And one of the things I've repeated over and over in trainings I've done on my platform, invest.frederickcapital.com, is setting the vision of how Henry Ford set the vision for investing in his Ford Model T. And one of the ways he set the vision is by mass producing a Ford Model T over and over that surpasses the pace that the traditional car makers, any that was available at the time, can do. Because Henry Ford created the assembly line. And studying the visionaries, the leaders of, the, I forgot the last name, the Galliano family, I understand their vision. They understand Henry Ford's the way Crocs of the world. They understand how to build by using systems. They understand how to build by building investments. Got to take a private call. Sorry about that. Take a call from the wife. So when you actually see the bigger picture and begin to understand what is going to happen, then you start getting the bigger picture, because this is not a short-term play. And for those who even think about Boxer as a tiny house, please, I don't invest and waste my time on stuff like that. Yeah, actually, to show how deep I am, when my friend and I was first looking at the concept of tiny houses, I was looking at 3D printing of houses. I have a lot of technology knowledge behind me. So, I like the concept of tiny houses, but this blew my mind. And even though it fell under the tiny houses, the technology behind Boxable with the many patents, I forgot how many patents they have, it surpasses, a joke to even compare it close There was somebody on I think it was YouTube that actually did a whole series on 3 or 4 different, whatever, 5 maybe models of companies that have compared close. Like, it's an insult to say close, but there's only one I could say that is a little closer, because they could stack their container units and so on. But remember, Boxable is flexible and foldable, and it changes. There's no tiny hands that could be there. You could just squeeze it and ship it out, But being able to fold and in the future stack it on top of each other to make three tiers levels of housing, that changes the game. Also, being able to be mold proof, um, water damage proof, fire proof, handle a lot of the earthquake possibly damages and just natural disasters that happens often depending on the state that you are. And like my friend and I were talking earlier, if you really take the time to research and look at Boxable, the amount of stuff inside of this little, I don't know the size of Boxable is off the top of my head, it surpasses what the average standard is for some states like the Floridas, the Californias, that have so much issue in earthquakes, flood damages, mudslides per se, um, you know, and then fires. That's always happening. I would say California's always burning down because every year, drought and all this other stuff. And not to mention the most important thing I think is also solar panels, fuel efficiency. Boxable provides all those things. So the round's going to close, and let me go back to what I was saying earlier. There's important investment that you need to make, and I'm gonna say only this: the only time and you should think about making it, because if you're kind of in late, it's kind of and I say that because you might be coming in late when the boss will come closer to closing the round just to invest one time. If that's and that's why I was telling my clients, don't go investing into this bonus round if all you are doing is to buy boxes with that one time. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. She can't get on. So the bonus is what I'm talking about, folks. If you are seriously going to invest, and when I say invest, I'm not talking about just investing in Boxable. If you are seriously going to invest in pre-IPO crowdfunding, then I recommend, and I will say, if you're going to do more than 3 investments, and listen, it's not cheap, but also it's well worth it because there's a lot of benefits to it. You get bonus shares. Not that Boxer right now is giving bonus shares with the partnership with Start Engine. They don't need to do that anymore. I got in early. I got some extra bonus shares. But if you see other investments, and you will, and another key thing is how you will see other investments. If you actually go and set your profile properly, you will see some of the preferences of choice, and you could see investments that piques your interest, and therefore you could determine if it's a viable investment for you. Now, I do reviews all the time on my backend invest.frederickcapital.com, and basically that's what I'm going to be doing. And I've done a number of recordings that once I officially release the fee and pricing, you could join if you want to. And right now I'm very focused on um, almost a combination of both those who are interested in both investing in pre-IPO crowdfunding and also invest in cryptocurrency, because there's a lot to cryptocurrency and to change, especially if you're a business person, as we change over to a digital currency, full-fledged digital currency system. So it's important if you have that in the back of your mind as you invest, because when you look at investing for the long term, you'll see the value and the benefits for why you should be um, using the bonus. I tell you, investing is addiction to me, because and actually because I'm so much fluctuating between that and cryptocurrency now as investments. and mining all this other stuff. So there's training for that. If you are interested in those things too, you could leave me a comment in the chat or join the membership. And eventually, when I'm ready to launch, I'll share that, and you guys could sign up to invest at the appropriate price points that fits you and your style and what you're looking for. So, in wrapping up, since I know this was last minute, we're coming off and on. Boxable, some of the things to wrap up, pay attention to emails, notifications, and do not ignore them. If they say you need to reinvest and confirm, that means there's been a change in the company as far as investment practices goes, and that requires you as a shareholder, unofficially shareholder, I should say, to confirm that you are still interested. And let me say about this. That's one of the great points of why I love pre-IPO investing, because it asks you to participate in the changes that's taking place. Like me, I know after companies go public, I barely sometimes, to be honest, invest because there's so much going on. Like I'm not trying to make a decision, but you are in early phases of a company formulation. So the decision that's being made, you'll play a part in those decisions. So SEC regulation requires that you share publicly with the investors if they still want to buy into your company. And that's why they have these rules, and therefore you have to say yes or no. And this is what's beautiful about it. If you don't, you get bounced. You literally get your money back and you get refunded. And so you cannot ignore investing in pre-IPO because it's not a set it and forget it. You will lose every time. And I know people who have lost because they failed to confirm that they were busy. Um, Especially, at the time that you put an investment in, and until I always like say, this old saying, until the fat lady sings. In this case, the fat lady is actually Boxable or any other investment that you get involved in actually close their rounds. When they say the round is complete, that's when you are fully invested. And then there's still other things you got to do. The transfer agent, you got to pay attention to that. It's not bad. Like I've been busy and left things hanging, but you need to transfer your shares. The share doesn't just go to the stock market when it does. It doesn't work like that. You have to tell the transfer agent that you want to put it in your, whatever trading account that you may have, or you could leave it in the transfer agent's platform. Other things like that I talk about in my investment platforms, and also I do a deep dive. And again, the first one, Boxable, I did free and it's online. And my back end, if you sign up for, you'll see just a whole, it's long, but it's worth it because for those of you who never invested, lack vision to see the bigger picture, I go to a deep dive and give you a lot of comparisons. I mentioned earlier the Henry Fords. Ironically, the founders, when they did their promo videos after the first two rounds, I think they did on YouTube, I recorded my stuff earlier and I said the same thing they said because they compared the assembly line of Henry Ford's automobile to that of Boxable. And that's what they've done. That's what makes it unique too. The flexibility. And one of the things I said in the article that I'll be releasing, and you could ask for it if when you join, basically I'll put it in the attachment, and I'll probably put it in a blog eventually. And what I set in, that's 10 key points I put in there. And what I set in motion for you is to see the future, the way I see the future of where Boxable is going to go. But also what you need to understand about where Boxable is and what it is 10 years from now, 5 years from now, and price points of, growth. And we could see from the investors. Obviously, it's not a gimmick for those in the early phases thought this was a joke. Boxable is doing some clever things, and it's going to solve housing situation. And I'm very excited to see where Boxable is going to be after this round closes, because it's currently right now, folks, at 80 cents a share. Imagine Microsoft, imagine Oracle, imagine Facebook. You did not have access to get in the ground floor. And even cryptocurrency prices right now, that's not even close I could relate to prices this small. I pay more thousands of dollars more for pre-IPO investments and also some cryptocurrencies because they have so much value. for what they're going to do long term. Boxable was at 80 cents. When they're done closing in 2 months, Boxable has a good chance to be over $1. And that's just the beginning. And more adopters will come in. And remember, the more appreciation, and it takes time to do a real valuation assessment. Because honestly, folks, when I saw $3 billion after the last round, because it's mind blowing. And that person that asked that question, how the hell did they come over $3 billion that fast? Because they were 46 billion, and then they went up a little bit. I forget what the assessment for the last round was. What was amazing though, and what the person failed to understand is that they also take private investments always. And when private investors come in, they come in at thousands of dollars at a time. So price appreciation, and also they get a discount too, not 80 cents. They probably get, and then they say it in the circulator. It's available for you, so it's not some cheating going on. Boxable is worth that evaluation. They will be, and I will always compare them to the end until it goes public. They will be over $100 a share when they go public, like Airbnb. There'll be a frenzy, and I even have the reporting of when Airbnb was going public, because that's how powerful they're going to revolutionize how housing is done. The vision, like I said, that I have for Boxable and this thing I wrote is to compare, how housing, just like the way Crocs, just like Henry Ford's, how housing is done and how housing is built. Not 3-6 months. God forbid you're talking about commercial property. I'm talking about within hours. The whole community is built. They're going to revolutionize the industry, and that's why I'm gung ho. I'm a private investor, so I don't sit there putting public, light online and talking about every company investment and that. I'm very picky about doing stuff like that. But there's one or two in each industry investments that I have that I really am deep, and I love to talk about X, Y, and Z company. And it's not to give financial advice or trying to tell you to come on. I couldn't care. I do care, but at the same time, I couldn't care, because you have to make those decisions yourself. And whatever your financial situation is, your choices. Somebody right now could say, "Oh, it's $1,000. I don't have time." Well, great, because you're not an investor; you're a consumer. That's where you look at. Investors look at the future, long term. The same person who's going to complain, and I'm gonna make you look stupid in a second right here. Watch this. The same person who complained at $1,000 Boxable price entry point, that's a minimum, would have missed it when it was 14. Oh, that's a pyramid scheme. That's like a penny stock. It doesn't even reach $5 to qualify in the stock exchange. Okay, you don't understand pre-IPO. You don't understand having vision when it was at $500 entry point at 14 cents. You don't understand appreciation 2 years later while COVID was happening, shutdown was happening, that I 10x my effing money from a 14 cents investment. You don't understand what it means to be an investor long term, having vision. And more importantly, don't even think about yourself, think about your children's legacy that you're going to be leaving behind. Because when it comes to investing, for me, and as I educate people, that is what you're investing in. You're not investing for your damn self today, your selfish reason to get rich or whatever desires you want to. It's about leaving something truly valuable, assets for your children's future that you could share over and will over and pass on. Because guess what? That share, if you don't make a decision what to do with it, it's going to still be publicly traded. The company goes bankrupt, then it's diluted. You get a check eventually, but it's going to go to a lot of hoops. So Boxable, I always tell my wife, this is one of your many retirement plans I have set for you. And I try to tell people that I care and love for, look at this as a retirement plan for yourself, for your children's future. Because there's a short amount of time of window of opportunities, and I even speak especially in my investments in cryptocurrency, because it's not about investing today. And you could say, well, I invest in my child's education. That's another story of a joke. Because the education that you get today, someone like me or someone on a platform like this, you will never get that in a college environment to teach you to be a peon working for dead-end jobs that will never pay you what you're worth, but most importantly, will not pay you in appreciation and value and wisdom. I'm almost 50, and I can say that because today, and I remember, and I'm laughing with the point I am in my life because I'm not an education and wealth knowledge that I accumulated. It wasn't to a damn college degree. It wasn't to all this student loans of going to school, getting more degrees, more pieces of paper to say what I'm good at working and being a slave. And I say all those things because part of the understanding fundamentals as I get ready to wrap up. See, the 21st century is about intellectual property, information, knowledge. And that's why I sell my knowledge. I don't give my knowledge away because people don't appreciate it that much when you give it away. Hence, people always want to give stuff. There's always gimmicks for why they give stuff free online, all this other nonsense. But understand that your investment that you make is not only in yourself, but you invest in the long term. Because those who laughed and joked when I was trying to tell them about Boxable, $46 million appreciation valuation that was solidly made, not some marketing gimmick or crap or tiny house joke. The company's at $3 billion as of 2022, July 2022 to be exact. Next year, around the same time, what are you still going to say? It just looks stupid though, because this valuation, because what they raised, 4x the last round, and they raised 3 other rounds before that. This is a multi-billion-dollar company that's not to joke about and laugh at. This is generational wealth creation. Not only some of my vision, my article was that the way things are happening in housing, and this is some dark, you could say movies you see in the future about housing and how people are living. Guess what? You're gonna be taking your damn ass house with you, not a tiny house, not a trailer, mobile park crap you want to call that, or if, you know what your insult is. That's how people can be living, and not investing in land is gonna be the most important to me in my visionary process. What I see happening in the future is gonna be one of the most important assets to have, because people are gonna be like a nomad, taking their property with them and even further expanding it because of what Boston is going to do, scaling up in the future. So as your children's, your family per se increases and grows, guess what? Your needs for more bedrooms per se, buying out a $50,000 stack, cheaper than paying over $100,000 to $200,000 and up based on where you live, what kind of size of house you have. It's a game changer, folks. And the precedence of what Boxable's technology, and let me say this about the patent technology. You could tell a visionary by the many things they do. And that's what I love. It's not about just the technology, it's the things that they're doing and I understand. Just like when I looked at Airbnb as an investment, I looked at what the inside the company, what they were doing, how they were preparing to create multiple streams of income and allow us to participate in the multiple streams of income from an investing standpoint. I understood that. So Boxable, what these founders have done and the vision they have is creating distribution. I will tell you, as an entrepreneur, this is like a nerdy time off for me because understanding what Henry Ford did and Ray Kroc did in distribution. They have, if you look at Boxable's website, they have Canada on lockdown for partnerships. And that's one of my other recording. I talked deeply about investors looking, and when I say investors, I'm not even talking about realtors. This is developers still. Realtors, man, y'all don't even understand how big this is going to be for you. How you will be able to sell very fast houses. And again, going back to this whole nonsense of tiny house, one of the last interviews updates that they did, and I'm gonna wrap up in a few minutes right here. Boxable's concept of a tiny house, they qualified for mobile home because it could, flow on wheels, but they're not stuck to the wheel. But also they are developing and creating partnerships, as I wrap up with this important statement, that will allow other laws to change or adapt to them, and also to qualify Boxable in over 50 of the United States and provinces, of course, to qualify as more than just a mobile unit home. But right now, they got it as qualified from what I've listened to the open session they had, just about over 50 states. I could be wrong on that, but you could correct me. But being able to have that position settled because you could wheel it and qualify. Because I know as I was looking at this potential investment in Massachusetts, which is always a hard fight, you know, the laws for mobile homes, definition of mobile homes, Boxable didn't quite qualify previously. Now, some of the rules have changed. It's always an uphill battle in Massachusetts, but some of the rules change. Dwelling units, it qualifies to be considered a mobile unit because it's on wheels. Powerful stuff, folks. So if you are someone who wants to invest, I didn't cover a lot of things because, I know I was talking to myself per se, but there's a lot of knowledge and information as you can see. And if you want to get some private consulting, I have sessions, short sessions you could actually request. If you have investment questions, you're interested in learning about investing, go to the invest.frederickcapital.com and you actually see a calendar session. You could book a session to actually learn or ask questions on whatever particular investment that you are interested in investing. I have all over 200 investments companies, and not just on Stock Engine. I have several companies, platforms that I invest in, and I'm always researching companies. Again, my primary time right now is consumed by cryptocurrency, especially in these times that we're in cycles, because I'm positioning myself and my family for longevity and generational wealth. And I hope that is your goal and desire for your family to do so and look at a bigger picture ahead of where we call this up our time on this earth, but where our investments will be long term and what we have set in position for our children's children to come. And that's why we continue to fail, especially our people. We fail to leave any inheritance behind or anything of value that will multiply long term. And so, the stuff that I see, and not even just on my box, but in just investments, a whole variety. But if you are interested in joining me, definitely sign up and just wait. And from the interest, I'll send an email blast and see who's interested in what. But in wrapping up, I'll say this, there's a lot to invest in. There's all types of investments. But for me, as a business person and investor, I know what technology does and how fast technology moves. So my primary focus is always based on technology-based companies to invest in. And there's a number of reasons for that, and including AI technology and also integration of it. And also I have small businesses integrate a lot of these technologies that you see on these platforms that I talk about in my investment, because there's not a position of just, because you could buy a Boxable, you could invest in a Boxable, see that? But then there's people who have, land, mobile parks. If you want to modernize your mobile park, this is an avenue. If you're a realtor, this is an avenue you could go to. So as an investor, I teach integration for business owners to learn how to integrate these new technologies, these new innovations into their business, so that they could offer this, whether that's for yourself or for your clientele, to show them, hey, here's another investment opportunity to develop and change the way the game is played in real estate. So with that, on the time, there's a lot of things I could have covered, but I didn't want to belay the time longer. And if those, have comments, questions, you can leave it below. Remember, till October, first or second week or so. And let me say this, it may even be closed faster because I call out 14 weeks when it first started in April of 2022. I haven't done the math close enough, if I'm correct, exactly, because they've done some incredible things, and congratulations to them. And I appreciate it and look forward to the next round, because that means more valuation, more value, and more awareness of Boxable. And the best is yet to come, folks. Take care and God bless.